Hey guys, and welcome to our first movie audio commentary. As you can probably see, the first one we're doing is Into the Woods. I'm here with my brother, him and I are gonna be running the channel. So
yeah, I'm Curt the Gamer,
and I'm Chrix the Gamer.
And this movie was actually my introduction to this musical. I'm not as big a fan of musicals as Chrix is, but this was my introduction into the woods. I've been a fan of a few other musicals, like I like Matilda and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Annie is my favorite, but we're not talking about that.
Phantom of the Opera is my favorite, but we're not really talking about that either.
Yeah.
Also, if we do call each other by our real names, Christian and Curtis, it's whatever. Our usernames, our YouTube names, our pseudonyms are based off our real names anyway, so...
yeah.
Whatever. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I've got everything set up here that I need for capture or whatever.
Now, we're not actually going to be showing the movie along with the commentary because it's copyright infringement, and we're going to try to make as much context as possible so that if you happen to not be watching the movie when you're syncing along with us, you at least know what's going on in the movie as we're talking about it. But you need to have seen the movie at least once, because you won't understand what's going on unless you've seen it.
We'll also be showing, at a few points in the movie, we'll be showing, like, the beginnings of scenes and such, just so that you can watch and make sure that you're caught up with us everywhere.
Yeah, make sure you're synced up correctly. We were originally going to try having you all press play at the same time, but we realized some of you might be watching a digital copy or a Blu-ray, because we're watching the DVD version.
As you can see, here's the menu for the DVD version. We're not going to stay on the menu for too long in case, like, copyright infringement or whatever. I'm actually using my phone as a remote here, so that's fun. Anyway, should I go ahead and press play now?
Yep.
And should we turn on subtitles for this?
No, we're fine.
Because I feel like subtitles would work better for...
Okay, well, get off of the menu here while we turn those on.
Okay, let's see, still image, okay. I actually really like the music for this, but I'm not showing the music in the recording for various reasons. Anyway, where is it?
Subtitles.
That's where it is.
There
wow,
it is.
I'm smart. Sorry you guys can't see this. I'm gonna go with, English. I speak English, of course, so. Okay, now, should we click, play movie, or should we go to the scene selection?
Just go to play movie.
Okay. So, for those of you who are watching on DVDs, you can go ahead and sync up with us when we do that. For those of you who aren't watching on DVDs, you can figure it out. But anyway, let's go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so I will show the first few seconds of capture. I don't believe these first scenes here are copyright infringing. If we show these.
Do not pirate movies, guys.
Don't pirate movies, it's bad.
Okay, here we go. We'll at least get the part with
where
the narrator speaking. Yeah. And then we'll go back to the picture of the poster.
Which we actually got from I found it online while searching Into the Woods images, and I thought it was a really cool image using some of the promotional material and combining it. I'm not sure whether it's an official image released by Disney, but I thought it was a pretty cool image, so that's what I'm using. That was my phone, if you guys heard that. But yeah, I really like the cinematography in this movie. I was reading a review somewhere where somebody said you could watch the movie without the sound on even, and it would still be a beautiful movie.
Okay, do you think you can...
So, let's go back to the image now. Basically, if you haven't seen Into the Woods, first of all, why are you watching a review on Into the Woods?
And if you haven't seen it, I really recommend watching it. Do not watch our commentary if you haven't seen this movie. Seriously, go watch the movie and then come back here and listen to us. I am perfectly serious.
It's really a good movie. It's really worth it, for the most part.
I don't like it as much as Chrix here does, but it is a good movie. I mean, the last 20 minutes or so are pretty weak, but the rest of it is pretty good.
Basically, it's the story of, it's the stories of a bunch of fairy tale characters combined together with the idea of, like, the results of their actions being in the second half.
Yeah. Only it's not even the second half in this. It's the second half in the play. It's the whole second act in the play, in fact. But in this one, it's the last
more
20
like
minutes.
the third act.
Yeah.
Because generally when we talk about movies, people prefer to talk about a 3-act structure for movies.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to convert a 2-act play into a 3-act structure movie, which is where this movie really fails.
And there's something
And
on the
Dance
TV
Before
screen
the
here.
Prince.
There.
Ha, 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 ha.
Anna Kendrick as Cinderella.
Anna Kendrick is a really good actress and a really good singer, but her singing doesn't really have enough emotion to stick through. I don't know who Jack's mother is played by, but she's actually really good. I like Jack's mother in the movie, and Jack is
Well, I can look it up real quick.
What's Jack's actor's name again?
Daniel Huddlestone.
Daniel Huddlestone, yeah. I really like Daniel Huddlestone. He the first thing I saw him in was actually Les Mis, the movie of Les Mis, which that's that's a story for another time, but let's see what else he was on. He played Gavroche in Les Mis, I remember, and then Into the Woods was his other big thing that he's known for.
Oh, here we go. Lilla Crawford.
Lilla Crawford playing Red.
Oh man, Lilla Crawford. If you guys don't know me, I'm a big fan of the play Annie. So she was actually Annie on the 2012 Broadway revival, I believe. She was actually a pretty good Annie. I've seen clips of it. And she did good in this movie too, actually.
And finish your chores in time, then you shall go to the ball with us.
Am I the only one who doesn't like Pitch Perfect?
I wasn't in love with Pitch Perfect.
Okay, Tracy Ullman plays Jack's mother.
She does a good job. What else has she been on? Ullman. That Tracy Ullman? Yep, that Tracy Ullman.
Are you actually showing this?
No, I'm not, but I could.
It's fine.
I'm looking up Tracy Ullman on Wikipedia right now. You know, Wikipedia, the most reliable source.
Well,
I love the way the characters, music and stuff combines, and it really goes back to the show, but the way they do it so well in this movie, even, it's really structured quite well. And like I said, the cinematography is great. This whole movie, except for the transition between the second and third acts, is not good.
I was actually kind of happy to see some references to the more unknown versions of the fairy tales here, because
they were trying to, I believe when Sondheim wrote the musical, I read somewhere he was trying to base it off of the original stories, like the Charles Perrault
you can't really find the original version since they were oral stories rather than written stories. So the original would be a version that was literally,
well, original.
But I mean, most of these are based off the
doves.
Brothers Grimm version.
There are flies in her eyes. There's a lump on her
Okay.
big enough to be.
Is that gonna copyright?
Sorry, guys.
infringe?
I'm probably gonna do that a few times.
But yeah, I've always been a big fan of the fairy tales. In fact, when I was in middle school, I often checked out like the complete Brothers Grimm, the complete Charles Perrault.
Man, they're so good in this movie. Like, the music is so structured so well, you don't feel the severe tempo changes when they happen. Mostly because they're not really as severe.
Am I the only one who prefers a dark-haired Red Riding Hood over a blonde-haired Red Riding Hood?
Well, they're both really good. This works for the movie. The one in the original Broadway was also really good.
She wasn't as good a singer, but she's a good actress, really.
She was a very good actress, and she really added a lot of charm to the role that Lilla Crawford also
But for
has
some
in the
reason,
role.
whenever I've imagined the story of Red Riding Hood in my head, I've always imagined her with dark hair, and it's rare. It's rare to see a portrayal of Red Riding Hood with dark hair.
Well, usually when I imagine Red, I imagine her wearing a literal red cape, like over her head, even. So,
Well, she did have that briefly. If you saw that.
never can tell what lies ahead. For all that I know, she's already dead. But into the woods, oh my goodness.
Is this going to copyright infringe if you sing too much?
I don't think singing is copyright infringing. I mean, it still falls under fair use.
Just don't sing too much. Don't sing the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not singing through the whole thing.
But, yeah, I know I know nobody's gonna know what I'm talking about, but Golden Book videos where they had like the pictures.
Right.
I know on that the pictures actually had a Red Riding Hood with dark hair. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't recall any other illustrations that I've seen that had dark hair.
I've always imagined Cinderella with blonde hair or lighter colored hair. Just because of Disney. Just because of what Disney does to you. And then Anna Kendrick is here as Cinderella.
Actually...
And it works really well.
In Disney's animated Cinderella, she's a redhead. I know on the posters and stuff they portray her as a blonde, but in the movie itself, she's a redhead.
And it's interesting how... in Into the Woods, specifically, like, in the Cinderella stories, you usually imagine there's, like, an evil stepmother and evil stepsisters, and Into the Woods, it's more, like, rude. Oh, we're coming in on Meryl Streep, who plays the witch, and it's debatable as to whether the witch is really the evil character in the story. We'll get to that later in the movie, but...
Oh, man, she does really good as the witch. I still prefer,
Bernadette Peters.
But,
Bernadette Peters is the quote-unquote original.
You know, is it ironic that both the movie and the original Broadway of Into the Woods each had an actor from some version of Annie? Because Bernadette Peters played Lily on the 1982 Annie movie. Mm-hmm. Meryl Streep. I don't think I've seen very many other movies of hers. I know she was on a movie called The River Wild, where it also had Kevin Bacon as a bad guy. And it was like a river rafting thriller, kind of. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. I think, yeah. The thing I was going to mention about Meryl Streep actually was, I was watching something or reading something, I can't remember what it was, but Meryl Streep talked about how she made a vow never to play a witch again. But she broke that rule for this movie because it was a different type of witch. Like, it's not really an evil witch per se.
It's the fairy tale witch. Like, was the kind of witch she played in an earlier movie, like a Satanist or something?
Well, they kept casting her as evil witches in movies over and over and over and over. So that became what Meryl Streep was a witch. So she made a promise never to play a witch again. But for this
I'm surprised they were able to keep that line in
the robbing me, raping me line. Yeah. It's
especially for a Disney film. But I mean, it's not like Disney hasn't pushed the boundaries before because, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Why is she laughing?
This is like a more serious portrayal of the witch than I've seen in other productions, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, sometimes she's played very comedically, like with Bernadette Peters, but like with the 2002 revival, she's actually played very, very serious.
Yeah.
Despite everything else in that revival being very serious, like the bird being held on a pole by the narrator.
Yeah, they really went all silly on the 2002 revival. I haven't seen the whole thing of that one, I've only seen parts and pieces. I think I've seen the whole thing of the original Broadway. But, or at least the original Broadway that they released on DVD.
Oh, there's the beans. And now we get the beans into the story, which explains why Jack is going to be in the story now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Everything kind of connects.
I mean, they actually show her getting put on a spell for getting the beans stolen right away in this. I mean, that's
another story. Never mind. Anyway.
That's not something you find out until the transformation actually happens in the play, like at the end of Act 1. Mm-hmm. That she was actually cursed to be ugly. And I mean, it's not so much ugly in this movie version as it is really old and elderly. And then she becomes younger when the spell is broken.
Right. So kind of like Tangled.
Yeah.
Except Into the Woods did it first. Because that's the way it was in the show.
Did you lock the door, by the way?
Yeah, I locked the door.
Okay. Sorry, guys, we're kind of going off topic for a minute there. We're kind of trying to make sure nobody interrupts us in here.
We're talking about literally everything else other than Into the Woods. Like, we went off on Lilla Crawford and Annie. We went off a path with Daniel Huddlestone. We started talking about Meryl Streep.
And Bernadette Peters.
Mm-hmm. Which Bernadette Peters also kind of leads back to Annie in an interesting way.
Yeah, is that the first time I thought of that both the movie version and the original Broadway each had an actor from some version of Annie?
Well, yeah. But if you connect it like that, you could argue that this does the same thing with Oliver. Because Daniel Huddlestone was also in the Oliver 2009 London revival.
Okay, who did he play? The Artful Dodger?
He didn't have a super important role, but he played one of the kids who was with Fagin. Oliver is my second favorite musical, guys, so if I start talking about that again, that's another story.
I haven't seen Oliver in a long time.
Honestly, though, Daniel Huddlestone is like, in the show, he's more of a adult who's kind of dumb, and they kind of make that clear in the show, whereas in the movie, they literally make him a kid.
Yeah.
Which
I don't have a problem with, actually.
It works really well, considering that's what people imagine Jack as a kid. And if you're gonna give the role to a kid, give it to someone like Daniel Huddlestone, who will really play it out and who's really good at singing.
See, this is actually breaking away from the things that people expect from the fairy tales, because most people are familiar with, like, the Disney version of Cinderella, which is based off of the Perrault version, which has glass slippers exclusively. But most variants of Cinderella actually use golden slippers, but a lot of people don't know that because they're used to the Disney version. So it was interesting that they actually went with the golden slippers in this one.
Well, I mean, you mean for the movie specifically, or you mean for the,
Well, both. And especially considering this was actually produced by Disney.
Well, I mean...
Is this directed by Rob Marshall?
Yes.
Yeah, so the same guy who directed Disney's Annie. That was a good movie. We gotta do that one of these days.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I don't think that was a choice that they specifically made. It would be very hard to change the lyric of the slipper as pure as gold to anything else. Like, the slipper as silver as something.
Yeah.
It would be hard to change the lyric later on when they say the cow is white as milk, the cape is red as blood, the hair is yellow as corn, the slipper is pure as gold. It would be hard to change that.
Yeah.
Although they do change Hazel Tree to Willow Tree at one point, which I don't understand the reasoning.
Was it Hazel Tree in the play and Willow Tree in the movie?
Yeah. Which a lot of people's argument for that is that Disney-fied the movie back to what their Cinderella is, because their Cinderella has a willow tree.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember whether it was a hazel tree in the Grimm fairy tale or if it was a willow tree in the Grimm fairy tale, because maybe they were trying to be more fairy tale authentic, but I'm not sure. It's Rob Marshall, and Rob Marshall made an excellent movie adaptation of Annie.
Actors who we've seen already for like a few minutes but we haven't talked about, James Corden and Emily Blunt. Great job in this movie. Emily Blunt is possibly the best role choice in the entire movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
She's a great singer. She sings with a lot of emotion. She is really believable as the character. Like, seeing Anna Kendrick, I was still like, it's Anna Kendrick. Like, I still saw her as Anna Kendrick.
Well, this was the first movie you saw her in.
No, I had seen her in Pitch Perfect, hadn't I?
You hadn't seen Pitch Perfect at the time. I think you had seen parts of it, but you hadn't really processed that it had Anna Kendrick.
I'd seen Anna Kendrick in some things. Like, when I see her, I still see Anna Kendrick. James Corden, I've seen him places, so I could still see him as James Corden.
And Lilla Crawford, I had seen in clips of Annie plays, so I keep seeing Annie.
Daniel Huddlestone, of course, I'd seen him as Gavroche, but Daniel Huddlestone is a good actor.
And
I can see him.
We're about to see another actor, of course, that everybody is going to recognize.
Even though, like, he has little to no importance in the story, really.
Yeah, they, like, advertise him heavily in the trailers. I mean, can we just go right out and say...
look at the picture. He's right there.
I'm assuming everybody's seen the movie already that's listening to this commentary, because otherwise they wouldn't be listening to it because spoilers, you know?
Johnny Depp, they cast as the wolf because then they could have Johnny Depp in the movie and advertise that they had Johnny Depp in the movie.
And they didn't even make him look like a frickin' wolf.
He looks less like a wolf than the wolf in the Broadway does.
I know. I mean, guys... This was one of the times I would have allowed you to use CGI. Okay?
CGI would look more like a wolf than this. If they took out a paper cut of a wolf and threw it into the movie, it would look more like a wolf than this.
I mean, seriously. You went all out to actually have a real place rather than a stage, and you don't try to make him look like a wolf.
By the way, we just got done with the first song. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and...
just so you can catch up.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to the still image in a few seconds. Okay, go back.
That is a beautiful shot right there. I love it.
But yeah.
I think Emily Blunt was the only actor or actress in this movie who I had seen in something else, who I still saw as the character alone.
What
and
did
not
you
really
see her
the
in
actress.
before?
I can't remember what else I've seen her in. I know the Prince I'd seen in, is the movie called Unstoppable?
Yeah, he was in Unstoppable. He's Chris Pine, and he was on Unstoppable, which is also another really good movie. And he was also on Just My Luck, which also had, like, Lindsay Lohan.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pretty funny movie. I don't know how that movie actually did, but...
Johnny Depp, of course, I saw as Johnny Depp, because there's no way to not see him as Johnny Depp in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like they decided to have Johnny Depp, and then they decided that he needed to be recognizable, so they made him look
he was
nothing
actually
like a wolf.
pretty good in Edward Scissorhands, though.
He was good in Edward Scissorhands, and he was good playing Sweeney Todd, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the best singer, but, it works for the role.
I haven't seen Sweeney Todd yet. I've seen Edward Scissorhands, which was another really good movie. It's not a musical. And it was actually felt quite strange for a Tim Burton film, but... I actually thought this was a Tim Burton film at first when I saw the trailers.
Man, these shots, this music, I'm gonna say this over and over again. The shots are beautiful, the music is beautiful. Everything about this movie. And also, the wolf is, like, unnecessarily creepy in the wrong sort of way.
Having it clearly be a guy in a costume who doesn't even look like a wolf, they might as well have just filmed it on a whole stage and made it obvious that it was a stage, because it was so obvious they were going for stage performance. The only thing...
also, this scene in the show is, like, very subtle, very unsubtle at the same time.
Like, I don't even think they tried to tone the wolf down. He's clearly a rapist.
He's clearly very rapey in this movie.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more creepy, considering it's Johnny Depp pretending to be a wolf and looking nothing like a wolf.
I mean, a lot of people think that Little Red Riding Hood is supposed to be like...
Like, look at this. He looks exactly like a man.
I mean, so there are some people... I know one of the theories about the Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale is that it's about avoiding rapists. Because I know when we were kids, we were always taught try to avoid sex offenders and stuff, you know?
Child molesters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's what the original Red Riding Hood is like. And the play does that in a way that's very subtle and very unsubtle at the same time. Well, when you're watching the movie, it's more like in your face.
I'm sorry if you guys came here thinking this review is going to be for kids. No, it is not.
I mean, we're not going to swear, of course, but...
Well, I mean, we might say suck or something like that, but we're not gonna, this review is gonna stay PG, at least.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can say penis in a PG movie.
Yeah, we're not gonna get super dirty.
They pulled it off in Alexander in the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. They pulled off saying that word 4 times.
He's even trying to attract her with candy, for Pete's sake, and flowers. You
know?
They didn't even shy away from the theories about the Red Riding Hood story.
There's just, like... There's some things that work in a show that don't work in a movie. Which, my first piece of advice would be to not make it into a movie. But I can't really say that, because if it wasn't a movie, I probably wouldn't know about Into the Woods.
Yeah. I mean, this was your introduction to the woods too, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, literally, the ears are just part of his hat. You know what really ticked me off when they did Into the Woods Jr. at, Is that gonna affect it?
It just skipped a scene.
Well, show the scene, and, you guys get to this part right here.
I'm sorry, it for some reason just skipped a scene on us.
It has not done that in the past.
I think my DVD player or my DVD or something might have a problem. My DVD might be scratched, or my DVD player might have a problem.
See, we're probably doing it this way from now on. We are doing the show part of the movie thing.
Yeah.
You were right all along, dude.
Yeah, otherwise we would have had no way to get to that. And sorry about that. I don't know why it did that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we didn't really miss much. All that was going on there was the wolf was about to get Red Riding Hood. He tricked her into waiting on the path, and
she
ate all the sweets. And
there might be like a fingerprint on your disc or something.
Yeah, probably. It just froze, and I was hoping like it would just start playing again, but
yeah. I mean, maybe layer switching or something.
Give me the cape.
I really like her scream.
Okay,
here.
This scream.
Yeah, we turned down the sound briefly for you guys.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That scream, it's... Oh my goodness.
Oh man, don't make me start doing Tessie jokes now.
No. She didn't scream that loud as Tessie, I don't think. Just stomps on the... Yeah.
No, oh my goodness, with Tessie, you know?
Yeah. Yellow slipper or golden cow? Or is it a golden slipper and a yellow cow?
Yeah.
And then his wife comes by. I mean, I understand things in the movie. I understand the way fairy tales are set up, but it just seems kind of contrived to me that the wife who's trying to avoid him would end up in the exact same spot that he's at.
Yeah.
And also Jack ends up in that exact same spot with the cow that they're talking about at that very moment.
Yeah.
Like, there's some things that you just kind of have to take for granted, and then there's other things that you're like, really?
Yeah.
And that even goes back to the play, to the musical itself, but
yeah.
I don't know. Also,
sorry,
like,
we're paying attention to the scene too much because it's kind of...
It's like, I know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, I know this is how he gets the magic beans, I know he's supposed to be like a dumb kid, but...
Oh man,
really?
Can I tell them about the thing we made up?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
That's for another day.
That's for another day, I'll talk about that sometime.
You know what I'm talking about.
These beans are magic. What kind of magic? I love this. Although it's constructed a lot better in the show. There are things you can do in a show that you can't do in a movie, as I'll say
I
again.
just find it far-fetched that they wouldn't think the beans were magic when they were giving them to him. But whatever.
Well, I mean, they have absolutely no evidence that the beans are magic.
Do you remember the Jack and the Beanstalk with Abbott and Costello?
Abbott and Costello's Jack and the Beanstalk, yes.
That was hilarious. Where it's an evil butcher who actually gives him the beans because he's actually trying to con him out of the cow and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then they actually turn out to actually be magic. And the butcher goes up with him in order to steal his magic hen and stuff.
Yeah. It was interesting.
We gotta watch that movie again sometime. I think it's in the public domain, so all we'd have to do was download a YouTube recording of it.
They cut out a short song here at this point in the show. I mean, in the movie.
Most of Act 1 is actually still in here, but they still cut out a few things.
They cut out very short songs. I really like Agony when it happens. Agony was hilariously done in the movie. Which, it's not quite played up for humor the same way in the play that it is in the movie. But it works in the movie.
Yeah.
The way they play it.
So this is our first commentary. I don't know if this is the first one we'll be uploading, but...
Okay, in a second, once we get to a new scene, I'm gonna go ahead and show what's, on the screen again.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is, where another character comes into the story. And this is one that you probably recognize from fairy tales as well. This is Rapunzel. She has a very minor role in the show, but,
yeah.
She sings all the time. Like, basically everything she says in the show is this tune that she's singing
Well,
right
I mean,
now.
that's accurate to the fairy tale, because according to the to the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, the prince was attracted by your singing voice when he went up the tower, but he couldn't find a way in because the witch had taken the door out and put bricks there.
Yeah. Also, this tower is huge.
And actually, the Rapunzel prince is actually a bad guy in the show, but in the play but in the movie he's a good guy, isn't he?
Well, I wouldn't say he's a bad guy.
He's a shady guy.
He does the same thing that Cinderella's prince does, which you'll understand later.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming everybody's already seen the movie already.
Yeah.
But...
And in the show, he does that same kind of thing, whereas in the movie, Rapunzel and her prince kind of just disappear after the first act.
Yeah. I mean, they run away, and that's all we hear about it.
Well, we see the witch come back and try to get Rapunzel, which she really does love Rapunzel as a daughter in the show. In Into the Woods, instead of just being...
Well, one of the implications of the Brothers Grimm version was that she never wanted Rapunzel to find out about sexual intercourse.
Okay, that makes sense.
But when the prince visits her, they actually have sexual intercourse, and she gives birth, and that's actually how the witch finds out about their secret.
Right, right. Okay, seriously, why is the grandma living in a tree?
Because it's a fairy tale.
I mean...
Oh, she just... I mean, that's supposed to be funny.
I mean, I would say that it's bad acting, except at that point it's supposed to be like that.
If you guys aren't...
Even in the original show.
If you guys aren't watching the movie along with us, it's the line, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel."
Perhaps it's all the sweets.
Yeah.
And, like, it feels badly acted, but if you watch the show, or if you watch anything else, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Like, she just says it.
Yeah.
We actually, there was one time I went to see the Into the Woods show somewhere. I can't remember where it was or who played it. But the Little Red Riding Hood in that, like, she did it completely different. She said it with joy, like, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel."
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't know that. Oh, it's just clearly the wolf.
It's so clearly the wolf. And also, they don't even get through half the dialogue here. She just screams.
I know, they say the full dialogue in the play, don't they?
In the show, yeah. It goes to the better to eat you with. The next scene has a lot of very interesting scene choices.
What if they had actually had the narrator who was a character? That would have been funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually the baker narrating in this one. Remember? Yeah, so he's not a hunter or a woodsman in this one.
That howl, though, it just cuts to the howl.
Yeah. He's not a woodsman in this one. He's just the baker.
Okay, so we've gone long enough without a song, so we have to put another song in. That line.
See, he's not a hunter or a woodsman, but they think he's a hunter. Right, Christian? Oh, man, one of these days we gotta do Hoodwinked.
Yeah, one of these days. Okay, these songs I actually really like. These, I've learned my lesson songs.
Yeah.
Other than them basically being the same song. Not really.
See, I'm starting to think of Hoodwinked, because Hoodwinked is also based on Red Riding Hood, and one of these days we're gonna have to do that, because it's a hilarious movie. If you have not seen it, you should watch it. It is funny. If you liked Shrek, you'll probably like Hoodwinked.
Yeah. These scene choices are kind of interesting.
They're trying to make it look really suggestive.
Yeah. That even.
It looks like a bear trap.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who thinks that?
No, it's weird. And then this is supposed to be like the wolf's stomach. A lot of people actually really liked this shot, and I like it. I think it looks cool, but at the same time...
Well, you know, where secrets lie that she never wants to know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you watch this a second time, you're like, what's up with this scene? Like, it's just weird.
They're rape victims. You know?
Yeah. And then there's this, with, like, the baker's gigantic face. That's not how it works.
Now, I think she actually gives him the hood before she finishes the song in this one, doesn't she?
Yeah.
But in the play, she actually finishes the song first and then gives it to him, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it works because there is, like, a little short break in the music.
Mm-hmm.
And Into the Woods. I mean, it's not that long of a break, but, it's long enough that they could extend it to long enough to make...
I kind of half expected it to be the Perot version at first when I was watching this movie, and Red to
have her
actually
die,
and then the Baker steal the cape.
Honestly, this works better, especially for setting up Act 2.
I kind of have mixed feelings about whether the fairy tale should have Red actually die when she gets eaten or not. Because, I mean, when she dies, it is kind of like a scare ending, like, don't talk to strangers, kids. You know?
Okay, now we're back to Jack with the beans.
Yeah.
They're magic. The man said so.
Oh, look, and they, like, turn into poofs when they land on the ground.
Which they kind of do that in even the original play. There's, like, little sparks that fly up.
Well, they aren't even really holding beans in the play, are they?
No, they're not.
You just have to suspend your disbelief because it's a far away thing, so they just go bing, bing, bing with their fingers.
Right, well, there's also sparks.
Yeah.
That appear when they...
Oh, man, it would have been so cool for you to see Wizard of Oz on stage. I'm sorry we messed up the sink a little while ago, guys, but...
Well, I mean, we didn't mess up the sink. The sink got messed up by itself. But that's why I'm showing, clips, is to make sure you guys are still synced up.
Yeah.
So...
Go ahead.
Besides, if you're watching this, like we've said, if you're listening to this, you've hopefully seen the movie already, so...
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not missing too much from that.
I mean, we want you to watch the movie without the commentary first. Yeah.
Watch the movie first and then go back. And there's Chris Pine. The first you get to see of Chris Pine. And his first line, I must find that girl.
Yeah.
And this is where, some people would say the story gets more contrived here, things feel more contrived. I think, like, it actually makes sense the way things happen.
Yeah.
Cinderella runs away from the ball, happens to run into the baker's wife, and the baker's wife can't get the shoes, and also the cow escapes.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for any of you who are still watching this who haven't seen the movie.
But when I saw this at, the community players, the Into the Woods Junior, where they just... I don't think the people who were directing that knew any other version than the movie, because they dressed the wolf exactly the same as Johnny Depp's portrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
They're set up just like the play.
Yeah. She's never lied
I've
to
never
royalty
anything
before.
to royalty before. I mean, that's a good point. With a cow. It's just like, what brings you here? Well, what brings you here? And why do you have a cow in the middle of the woods?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's just my husband undoing a spell. Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
The things, it's just like, the things the characters are just like, oh, okay. Like, later on, even Cinderella makes fun of that later on, because... What line is it? It's like, I need that shoe to have a child. That makes no sense!
Yeah.
And everyone's thinking that, like, that can't make any sense to Cinderella. And then she flat out says it. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we know what the audience is going to be thinking at this point, so let's just flat out tell them that we know.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
She guesses. She doesn't meet a wide range.
It's all very strange. Yeah. I don't understand this little part. They don't quite have this in the, show, this small amount of dialogue right here.
Now, how come it's having sounds there even when we're not saying anything?
Right here. It's recording, like, air sound and whatever. It's too quiet for you to be able to hear it, but... Even when I record, like, Let's Plays or whatever, it still shows that bar moving when I'm not talking.
Okay.
So. And there's the moon. The blue moon reappears.
Now,
soon.
the blue moon was invented for the movie, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it makes sense, because it gives, like, a specific reason that the witch knows it's this time of year and stuff.
I love how Jack's mother wakes up to a beanstalk in her face.
I mean, I've seen that in some other adaptations. But, some other adaptations of Jack and the Beanstalk. But
Right. It's funny, the way it works. Okay, there's your next sync point, guys. How did he know exactly where the baker was at that point?
They're giants in the sky.
Honestly, one of my favorite songs in the show. I love the song. I love Daniel Huddlestone singing it. It's really great. And it really works for this point. It's the next I've Learned My Lesson song. It's probably my favorite I've Learned My Lesson song, that's because it's sang by Jack. Jack being my favorite character in the show.
Yeah, of course.
And in the movie. Especially with Daniel Huddlestone playing him.
I was kind of bummed that we never really got to see Giantland in this, like, see Jack's adventure, but then again, we've seen it in countless other movies. Oh, man, what was that one with, it was like a parody Jack and the Beanstalk?
I can't remember.
Where the goose was like a half-human hybrid thing.
What?
You know, and there was like a girl teamed up with him. And the harp. And the cow was not like a literal cow. It was a game system called a cow. Computer of Wonder.
Wait. Are you talking about the one with Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah!
Oh my goodness.
That was hilarious. We had a blast watching that one back when it first came out.
We have that movie somewhere.
We're gonna have to watch that sometime. Maybe do a commentary on that.
Yeah, sometime.
We're gonna have fun all over again, because I don't remember everything from it.
I don't understand the choreography for this scene, though.
Oh, me neither.
It's kind of like he climbs a tree, and then he climbs down the tree,
well,
and he hugs the tree.
It's showing he's a kid.
Right, it makes sense that way. See, his facial expressions. Daniel Huddlestone is just a great actor. A great musical actor, I mean.
Jack the Giant Slayer was a good movie, too.
Jack the Giant Slayer was pretty good.
I mean, it was kind of a revisionary Jack and the Beanstalk, like, kind of, if the legend was true type thing.
Right.
And got passed down from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great movie. It was kind of similar to Ever After in a way, only not.
Really.
Because Jack the Giant Slayer actually did have fantasy elements in it, and Ever After didn't. Ever After was like a realistic version of Cinderella.
Right. He wants this cow back. This conversation is like, you said I could have her. No, I said you might be able to have her back.
But I mean, it was the same basic concept, right? Because Ever After also had the logic that the legend got passed down so many times that the story got exaggerated and stuff.
Right. And this is right when his wife is going to come back and be like, wait, where'd you get the money for... Oh, wait. Yeah, his wife comes back here. She lost the cow! 3. It's like, we've only got 2. I love the way this scene is done.
Stupid bugs flying around.
Although I do like it slightly better in the play because it's like, we've got the cow and the cape. You've got the cape! What have you done with the cow?
Was that in the original Broadway version?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I mean, the baker and his wife are some of the best acting in this movie.
But she might have done, but she didn't, but you might have done, but you didn't, but you might have done, but you didn't. Who cares? Okay, I like how they introduced the idea of her not being able to touch the items earlier, but I also don't like it because it is supposed to come as a surprise in the show.
Well, I mean, there is the whole thing in the actual play where she says, if I could get the cape, then I would, but I can't. Which kind of foreshadows that she can't touch any of the items that are going to be used for this spell.
Right, but you don't really think about it until you watch it the second time, and then you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be more of a secret until the end of Act 1.
For how long was this your favorite musical?
Until I saw Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera was great.
I really liked Phantom of the Opera. You haven't seen it.
Well, I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard of it, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen parts of it. I've even seen parts of the Gerard Butler movie, which looks awful.
Oh my goodness. The Gerard... Story for another time. Okay.
Here's your sync point, guys. This is the Agony song, right?
This is Agony, indeed. A lot of people's favorite song from the show. This is the song that people think of when you say Into the Woods now.
Yep.
Specifically because of the princes ripping their shirts and stuff.
Oh man, I wish that had been in the play. I was watching the original Broadway version, I was like, do they rip their shirts in this one? You were like, no, and I was like, oh man.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't really work as well for the play. The play isn't supposed to be funny in the same way that the movie is at this point.
Everybody in the theater was laughing, though, remember?
And in the play, they're just kind of standing there very princely.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, in the play, it's all very princely until the thing happens between the prince and the baker's
Yeah,
wife.
so here we see that the two princes are brothers.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can already hear the music.
Yep, me too. You know how much more you hear with headphones, right?
Yeah. This song, though, it's basically like, and a lot of people have commented on this, it's like when you realize that it's two brothers arguing over which one of them is worse off.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, that's exactly what it is. They're basically just saying, I'm worse than you. And complaining about it. A battle of life, I guess.
Did you know that the Perot version of Cinderella, the one that doesn't have the tar sticking to steps, but the one where she actually drops the slipper, and the original French, it actually implies that she leaves the slipper behind on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Which,
like,
they go with that and Into the Woods.
Like, it literally implies, it doesn't imply that she slipped and the slipper fell off, it implies that she took off the slipper and set it on the ground for him to find.
Mm-hmm. Sondheim and Lapine went with that for this.
Well, they went with both the tar thing and the leaving it behind on purpose thing.
It works, because it gives you another song, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm just happy because they're throwing in a bunch of songs. I mean, even I know when songs become unnecessary.
Which, I mean, it makes sense, because that means that Cinderella wanted to be found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm listening to this song again. This is just something... It's a very entertaining scene.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining for
Sorry, I just
remember,
yawned. It's late, so...
I remember I was sitting in the theater watching this with a bunch of people, and at this point everyone just started laughing. Although I think the point that really got me laughing in the movie for some reason was your fault.
Oh yeah, we were both laughing at that.
Yeah. I think I was just laughing at it because of, like...
It kind of comes to just a
it.
random place in the narrative, because it's really dark and gruesome, and then suddenly we get this goofy song.
Well, it's not goofy, it's more like... They're right. It's like, who's really wrong in this situation?
They all are.
It makes you think from a completely different perspective, and that's what made me laugh about it. Right, well... We're going to be ahead of ourselves in this movie, because everything is setting up for Act 2 at this point. From the very beginning, it's setting up for the third act in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's subtle, but... Was Agony one of the songs that they shortened a lot in the junior one?
Yeah.
I wish there was a Seussical movie, to be honest.
Honestly, I don't know. Would Seussical really work that well as a movie?
I mean... It's the main plot is Horton Hears a Who, which there's already a movie of, but it'd be kind of cool to see a Seussical movie. I mean, it's a very Seussish adaptation. It's all in rhyme, you know?
I love this. It's just like, is that you, my prince? Yes. And then she just believes it.
Well, you gotta think, even when we're,
She sounds nothing like,
even in the fairy tale, when the prince, like, calls up to her and Rapunzel's suddenly surprised to see somebody other than the witch entering, I'm kind of thinking to myself, wouldn't she notice that the witch's voice is suddenly very masculine?
Or maybe she didn't really care, she was just willing to let anyone up the tower. I don't know. There's some weird things in the story of Rapunzel.
Yeah.
And then she just cuts off the hair.
Part of it.
Yeah. But hey, now she has the hair as yellow as
You know,
corn.
I'm starting to wonder, was she intending on pulling her down from the tower? Literally?
I don't think so, because she did pull it toward the blade.
But she didn't know there was a blade there because she fell.
I don't know, maybe. Maybe she's more wicked than we thought she was. Oh, hey, look, it's Cinderella again. Let's get her golden slipper. Or let's fail because, you know, we have to continue with the movie.
Yeah.
And then she gets the shoe, and then Cinderella, for some reason, decides to turn around and grab it back.
Well, it's hard to run with only one shoe, you know.
Right. It's very well constructed. I can capture my own damsel, thank you.
They used a lot of the dialogue directly from the play.
I love, and though that kind of comedy, it's like subtle comedy. You have to really think about it, because one moment he's saying, I can catch my own damsel, and then the very next line is, see if you can find her, go. You know what I mean? It's just like...
Yeah.
It's kind of like the I was crying because I couldn't get my shadow to stick, and besides I wasn't crying. This guy wandering around the woods mooing.
Here's your next sync point, guys.
Just in case you forgot that Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters existed.
Yeah.
That's something directly from the show, is that ear of corn thing. Where he's running around comparing ears of corn to people's hair.
Yeah, completely failing to realize that there's yellow as corn hair on the ear of corn. Which we as the audience also fail to realize.
Until Jack, the dumb one, brings it up.
What did you think of them cutting out the mysterious man?
He wouldn't work in a movie. But also, when he sees his father later, it comes off really, really strangely.
In case you guys haven't seen the play and don't know what we're talking about, the mysterious man is the baker's father, and he's put under a spell so that he can't die until the witch's spell is broken. So when the witch's spell is finally broken, the baker's father dies in peace. Chrix actually got to play him in Into the Woods Jr.
Yeah. That was fun. And then there's this song, It Takes Two, which is actually a very entertaining song.
But you know what I keep thinking of?
Yeah, I know.
What if we did a commentary on that movie?
Maybe sometime.
It's basically The Parent Trap, only not The Parent Trap. It Takes Two.
Honestly, this song, like, these songs, if you really think about it, when you're watching it the second time, it's like... It's true, but at the same time it's not, because, like, they're learning their lessons, but not learning their lessons.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Just the way this is set up,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I keep thinking the movie It Takes Two. Oh my goodness. That's all I could think of when I heard this song.
These two are good singers, and they work together. Like, you can imagine them as husband and wife, Emily Blunt and James Corden.
Yeah. It will. If we do a commentary on It Takes Two, though, it's going to be a long time before we do that one. I mean, we'd probably do The Parent Trap first, because that's the more familiar one, you know?
Probably.
What if we did, like, a trilogy?
Who's the actresses in the, Mary-Kate and Ashley? No.
And It Takes Two,
Yes.
yeah, it's Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Okay.
But I mean, what if we did like a trilogy, like a Parent Trap trilogy, where we did both Parent Traps and It Takes Two as like a commentary trilogy?
Yeah, maybe.
But it will be a long time before we get to those movies, if we ever do those.
We ought to actually do a commentary on the, Into the Woods 1989 recording.
I don't know, it's long. And it's harder for people to find recordings of that.
I can't believe we're already done with the second day. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 54 minutes into the commentary, 55 minutes into the commentary at this moment. And...
yeah. I mean, the movies ran for shorter because it took us a few minutes to get it started, but...
Also, Sondheim music, I gotta talk about this. Sondheim music is hard. And they're pulling it off very impressively in this movie.
Well, it's a Disney movie. What do you expect?
Well, Sondheim music is very, very hard to perform generally. Like, of all the musicals he's written, Into the Woods is one of the more difficult
I like how
ones.
they're literally giant golden eggs, because part of the thing I was wondering back when I was a kid, okay, the giant has gold, the giant has a goose that lays golden eggs, so would they be giant-sized if Jack got them?
Unless he stole them from the earth.
Which he didn't in this version.
But it does make sense that they would be gigantic.
If they were exclusive to the giant world. If they actually belong to the giant and were not stolen from anybody, it makes sense.
Oh, hey, look, Milky White is dying. I love how they just get done singing about getting along, and now they're about to fight again.
Day 2 is done.
Mm-hmm. Day 2 is done, now on to day 3.
I mean, yeah, the baker's father does appear near the end here, but they leave it ambiguous as to whether his father actually appeared to him or whether he was imagining his father there with him.
Yeah.
Does his father appear at that point in the play?
Isn't this right when the witch comes back?
Yes, and this is one of the differences from the play right here.
Is I don't think she actually sees the prince.
No.
I love that. How it's just like, he jumps out of the tower and you think it's going to be epic and then like just, nope, bad idea.
Yeah, but the witch doesn't actually see them in the play. They don't actually tell you how the witch finds out in the play, but they do reveal that Rapunzel has twins when she meets up with the prince later. So I guess the implication is that the witch found out about her pregnancy. Just like in the original fairy tale, right,
yeah.
Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go back to image.
Alright, well, there's your sync up, guys. Then there's this song, which kind of comes back in the second act as the lament. Although there was a debate for a while as to whether they were cutting out the lament from the movie.
I mean, this is one of the things they did tone down, because she doesn't give birth to twins in it, so obviously there was no pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's sad to watch this scene, because you can tell, like, the witch really loves Rapunzel, and she thinks that the reason Rapunzel is trying to get away and everything is because she feels embarrassed by the witch. By her quote-unquote mother.
Yeah.
But it's just... I don't know. It's hard to watch because, like, they're both right. At one point, you do want to see her protected.
But the problem
on
is,
the other side, she should have freedom.
The witch never taught her about sexual intercourse, so Rapunzel never found out about how it worked and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's those implications of the fairy tale, too. You have to read really deeply into them to find them, but they're there.
Right. What else can we really say about this right now? I feel like I've said everything that I can think of to say. Who out there could love you more than I? What out there that I cannot supply? Well, I mean... I don't know, like I said, it's a hard scene to watch because you can see they're both right. Especially in the movie, when it really doesn't have anything to do with sexual intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really kills the mood of the scene, which is supposed to kill the mood of the scene, that's the point of it, As in a second here when the witch just cuts off Rapunzel's hair. Wait, does she do that in the movie?
What?
Grab her and cut off her hair?
I don't know, because she already took the prince out in this one. You know? So there was no reason for her to have a braid to attract the prince with to climb up on. Because I know in the fairy tale, she tempts the prince with it because the prince comes thinking Rapunzel's still there. And then the witch throws the braid down. The prince climbs up, and then the witch says, Rapunzel is dead!
Yep, here it is.
And then the prince literally does a suicide jump out of the tower and loses his sight. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
In the fairy tale.
Now, I feel like what that's supposed to indicate in the movie is, like, everyone's gonna be like, oh no, she touched the hair. But wouldn't she have touched the hair before in her life?
Yeah, because she climbed up.
The fight between... The fight between Red and Jack... It's great. Seeing Lola Crawford and Daniel Huddlestone fight like this, and also this short argument, it's like, I went up to the Kingdom of the Giant, ha ha ha, why don't you go get that harp? Oh, I will! No, you won't. Yes, I will, runs off. And that's the reason he goes up the third time. Because he already learned his lesson. He went up the second time to get more money, and he goes up this third time to prove to Red that he's telling the truth.
I mean, that doesn't even make sense in the fairy tale. He goes back for the harp, since he has unlimited gold from the hen or the goose, or whatever it is, depending on which version you read.
See, and now he's running away from a giant. It's like... It's... And also, he stole the harp. Like, if you think about it, he's completely in the wrong still. He did steal the harp.
Yeah. It wasn't something that belonged to his father.
The giant isn't necessarily even a bad giant in the movie. In Into the Woods, I mean.
Well, he wants to eat him. There's that.
Not necessarily. He's not saying come back here. He's saying bring back my harp.
I mean, even in the versions of the fairy tale where he does steal from the giant still wants to eat him.
Right.
Which is like the only justification for stealing, but even if it's a bad guy, I don't really condone stealing, even if the person you're stealing from is a bad guy.
I don't condone what Jack does here. I don't condone what, Red does, or did already. I don't condone what the baker and his wife are doing this whole time. I don't necessarily condone what Cinderella's been doing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with any of the characters' choices, except, ironically, for the witch. The
witch isn't really that good either, because she didn't care enough to teach Rapunzel about the world outside.
Mm-hmm. But she is trying to protect someone rather than being greedy. Okay, and here's where... This is the song, correct? This is the On the Steps of the... Yeah, because she gets caught in the tar for a second, and she does get out of the tar, but then she decides to leave one of her slippers. Because...
And she has, like, this...
I love the...
How everything freezes.
I love how everything freezes, so it's
thoughts, because this whole song is her thought process. And I don't know about you, but I believe that I have had thoughts, a bunch of different thoughts in seconds.
Like this, exactly like this. It works really well.
I mean, I don't know if we're ever gonna watch. I don't know if you're ever gonna watch the Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., but they do something similar to that where he's wrestling somebody and he has to think out all these things in seconds, and time literally slows down while we hear his thought process. It's really cool. I think you should watch that movie sometime.
Which movie is it?
Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, maybe. See, and she's even, like, she left her slippers on the tar. I like that. And she's sitting down. It's like... I like the choreography. It's showing that she's just... I don't know.
There's something on the screen. Just a second. There we go. This is a really tiny TV, by the way, guys.
The fact that she's moving around while she's thinking kind of, like... It kind of shows her mind how it's jumping everywhere and stuff, doesn't
She actually is a good singer. I heard a few of her songs on the radio on my phone while I was at college.
Well, that's neat. Starting to stick to the steps of the palace. These lyrics, Sondheim is a great lyric writer. Like, if you listen to any of his other musicals, including Sweeney Todd, which is one of my favorite
musicals... Oh, he wrote Sweeney Todd?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sondheim did Sweeney Todd. Did Sondheim do West Side Story?
I don't know. I haven't seen West Side Story. I don't know much about West Side Story. I know it's similar to Romeo and Juliet, only not similar to Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm. Let me look up West Side Story real quick. Or I could look up Stephen Sondheim.
It'd just be easier to look up West Side Story. That gets you who did it really quick.
Yeah. Things don't have to collide.
Yeah, so she's leaving the shoe here on purpose.
Okay, lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. Music by Leonard Bernstein. Oh, Leonard Bernstein did West Side Story?
Who's Leonard Bernstein? Okay, it was inspired by Romeo and Juliet, so we're right to note that. The West Side Story. Do they have West Side Story at the library? We could watch that sometime.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Cinderella just left her slipper on the steps. And the prince is going to use the slipper to go get, Cinderella. Or to find the girl who he was dancing with.
And I mean, I know in most of the modern versions of Cinderella, the midnight deadline is because literally the magic ends at midnight, so she has to get away from the ball before her clothes disappear at midnight. But in the earlier versions of Cinderella, where like she gets it from birds and stuff, the midnight deadline is because she needs to get home before her sisters do.
Okay. I know for a fact both of her slippers a second ago were stuck in the tar. That slipper has to have some tar on it still.
It is black on the
So
bottom.
why are there no leaves or anything stuck to it?
I don't know.
Or dirt or anything. Okay, that was important. When she gave Cinderella the bean and Cinderella just kind of threw it aside.
Mm-hmm.
That is once again setting up for the second act.
What happened in the junior version?
That. It still happens in the junior version.
She still threw the bean down?
I don't care if it costs me my life. Go away. Yeah.
Cinderella intends to get home before her stepsisters do, so she has to leave at midnight every night of the 3 nights of the ball. That's another thing I don't see in adaptations very much these days, the 3-night ball. I know they did it in the book of Ella Enchanted, because the book of Ella Enchanted was strongly inspired by Cinderella. The movie, not so much.
Yeah.
The movie was... I don't really like the movie of Ella Enchanted, to be honest. I liked the book a lot.
The movie is, like, completely different from Cinderella.
Yeah. But the book is very obviously Cinderella. With a twist.
Also, they mention the second beanstalk right there in the movie. They actually don't even mention it until the very, very end of the first act in the play.
When you can see it growing.
Yeah. And then they say to be continued, and that's how it ends.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know whether I like that addition of them actually mentioning it.
Well, when they get to the point where the Act 2 comes in this...
It just kind of comes abruptly.
They also kind of still have some things from Act 1 during that time. From the original Act 1, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rapunzel running away and stuff.
Okay. This. I was not expecting them to go quite this far in a Disney movie. What they do at this... I'll go ahead and show this real quick. I should have shown it from an earlier second, but,
They basically cut off pieces of their feet so they can get the shoe to fit. Which is actually... If you read the Brothers Grimm version of the story, that actually happens.
Yeah. But I wasn't expecting them to take it and put it into a Disney movie. Or a musical. Of any sort. So when it came up, it was like shock humor. It makes everyone laugh every time. It works, though.
It's supposed to be disgusting in the story.
Well, if you think about it, it is disgusting, but it's, like, humorously disgusting.
Well, here's another thing that we often hear the ugly stepsisters, and I think they were portrayed as kind of ugly in the Disney animated version, but it's clearly stated in the Brothers Grimm version of the story, they were fair looking, but they were vile and black of heart.
Mm-hmm. Whereas they are pretty in this, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are nice looking.
And did they portray them as pretty in the new live action Cinderella that came out in 2015? I can't remember.
I think they did. Well, honestly, in my opinion, the Cinderella herself has always been prettier than the stepsisters.
Well, they're jealous of her because they're trying to make her look less beautiful than they are.
Whereas Anna Kendrick is pretty, but you can tell, like, they do make her look ragged and such.
You know, something I don't see often is the sympathetic younger stepsister.
Mm-hmm.
I know they did it in Ever After, but,
they don't do it at all in Into the Woods.
No.
But, you know, what they do in Into the Woods works.
Yeah. I know a lot of the early variants of Cinderella actually have the sympathetic younger stepsister that actually cares for Cinderella somewhat. I mean,
there's still mean.
There's variants on it. Sometimes the younger stepsister isn't really that mean to her. Like, usually just teasing her or something, and actually does care about her. And in some, she's just more sympathetic, but is still mean to her. If you've seen Ever After, I know they did the sympathetic younger stepsister in that, because there was even that whole scene where they were talking together about how, Cinderella kicked the older stepsister's butt or something. And she was like, I can't believe she flipped over with her legs like that or something. And they were laughing about it together.
Yeah. Okay, now we're back to Rapunzel. And her prince. Also, Rapunzel is still singing the exact same thing that she's been singing the whole show.
Well, that's how he found her in the fairy tale also. He heard her singing voice.
Yeah, true, because he's blind.
And she had given birth to twins at this point.
In the play, anyway. Not in the movie, of course.
Yeah, because there was a time gap. Wasn't there in the play?
Yeah, there was a bit of a time gap here, wasn't there?
They have a compressed timeline with this.
But it works. Okay,
I mean, it does kind of take away a lot from the story, because it takes a lot away from the meaning of the witch's song when she was kicking Rapunzel out.
Mm-hmm. Who's Rapunzel's prince? Who plays Rapunzel's prince?
I don't know. You can look it up.
I see you. I'm not blind anymore. The whole tears healing it thing. Believe it or not, Tangled did not come up with that.
No, they did not. I mean, it's less contrived in Tangled, though. Tangled actually made a lot of sense of it, because she had her hair cut off, which made her lose her power. But then it comes out in her tears briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's still zoning out of her still. And so when her tear drops, the power still works. But in the fairy tale, it's just a contrived thing that happens. She doesn't even have magic hair in the fairy tale.
You have all 4 items, kind of. But they don't have a cow that's, actually white. And a lot of people...
Billy Magnuson,
yeah, okay. A lot of people's complaints was actually, what was the point of having the cow die if they were just going to bring it back to life? And actually, they did have a good reason for killing the cow at that moment, and that was because Jack was being bothersome at that point, so the cow had to die in order for Jack to get away.
of course.
So that's the importance to the story of the cow dying.
Remember in the play when it's just like a cow replica, and then when it tips over, it's clearly got these things on the bottom of its legs tipping it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, some musicals lose quite a bit of their charm when they're put in movie form. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. It's the point of... like I said, there are things you can do with a stage production that you can't really do with a movie. And now we're going to bring the cow back to life.
It's what George Lucas couldn't realize about the updated DVD versions of the original trilogy of Star Wars, where he added pointless CGI to them. He didn't realize that part of the charm was some of the really bad special effects, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes perfection lies in imperfection.
And the CGI sticks out like a sore thumb in it, too, because it wasn't originally made with CGI, and so the parts where he added CGI, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Doesn't look as good, despite looking better.
Yeah.
They're feeding these items to the cow, and it always grosses me out seeing this. Ugh.
I know.
It's gross. Except it won't work.
Milky White is actually the cow's name from the Joseph Jacobs version of Jack and the Beanstalk. I think Milky White was a name Joseph Jacobs came up with himself.
Really?
Yeah. But, should we talk about our version? Okay.
I'm not ready to discuss that with anyone yet.
Okay. But we did keep the name Milky White in that, didn't we? That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Oh, wait, that. Yeah, you can talk about that. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, the version of Jack and the Beanstalk we made up. We came up with this whole backstory on the Giants and how the whole Beanstalk thing was actually part of an evil plan to get Jack to go up because he had some sword that the Giants accidentally left behind when they looted the Earth. It's actually interesting. It needs a little bit of reworking because we were younger back then, so we
that was forever and ever ago. That was years ago.
It could use a little bit of reworking, but we did have a pretty good plot in mind, didn't we?
That whole thing about the hair off the corn.
Yeah.
Slightly contrived, but it works.
I mean, it's the mysterious man who suggests the hair on the corn.
Now, why did the witch wait until the last 3 days to tell them about the curse?
I don't know.
Why couldn't she have told them 2 years ago, or
I don't
something?
know. I don't know. Here she is all young again.
Yep. She's young, she has blue hair, everything.
But I mean, she's kind of also bad because she's taking revenge on descendants of somebody who was mean to her just because she cares about her good looks.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's not the baker's fault that his father did something like that.
Right, but she did put a curse on the entire family.
Yeah.
How was the baker born, exactly?
He was born before Rapunzel.
Oh, wow, I'm smart. Anyway, now all the stories are coming together, and the story is coming to a close, it feels like.
They needed an intermission. I mean, they should have just put an old school intermission in here.
Movies aren't allowed to use intermissions anymore, it feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did very well with the first act.
Oh yeah, they did. I mean, everything from the first act isn't even done yet because they still have Rapunzel's story to tie up from the first act. So even when they start Act 2 in this...
Well, they tie that up partway through the second act.
Yeah.
And then here's where the movie started not doing so well at adapting the source material.
I would have been fine with the movie just ending right before that point. I mean, it's a movie adaptation. What do you expect? I would have been fine with them just ending and not doing Act 2, but of course, then people would have been even angrier.
It would have been interesting. The issue with that is it's not Into the Woods without the second act.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or what if they had put, like, a the end, and then wrote, just kidding, and then, like, started an Act 2 there. Instead of putting an intermission. Like a the end sign, and then putting, just kidding.
That would have worked, or something like that.
Like, at least a black screen with something to separate the two acts. And then going on, and this is glitching again, so we're going to put another frame in here. for you guys to see. Let's...
Okay, it just froze for a second.
But get here, guys.
It just froze for a second. It didn't actually skip that time.
Did you show this to anybody at college, this movie?
Yeah, I showed it to a friend.
Cat?
Doesn't matter which friend.
Okay.
But here's where things become dark, and that's the way it is in the original play. We find out Red's granny is probably dead.
You're gonna have to clean this disc once we're done watching it.
Yeah,
unless it's the DVD player that's acting up.
The paths are gone. The paths in the woods are gone.
Yeah.
Why does he always cry when I hold him? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how you wanted a kid and now you don't even want to take care of the kid. Stewart and the royal family out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Looking at the earthquake. I like the way the I like the way the second act is constructed in the play.
Yeah, the giant's wife.
Also, this is where you figure out what's really going on.
Yeah.
And it's almost immediately. Whereas in the play, it does take a few minutes before you figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
That it's even a giant.
Yeah. And you can actually see her a little bit in this one. In the play, she's off screen.
Yeah. This... I love how the witch is, like,
and you
the
see,
witch
the witch isn't that good because she's willing to actually give Jack to the giant's wife just to save her own self.
It's not just to save herself, it's to save literally everyone else.
But I mean, nobody deserves to die.
Mm-hmm. The witch is like... The witch has interesting points of view that you really can't completely disagree with. Because if you think about it, she's entirely right that Jack deserves to be killed by the giant's wife.
Yeah. But the thing is forgiveness, you know?
Jack's mother's death here is like... It's not even a death, really.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't think that she had died. I wouldn't think that this part would have killed her.
Was it switching layers at the freeze point, maybe?
Maybe. See, that... There's no way that killed her. I just realized the humor in the blind girl saying, yes, we saw him there.
Mm-hmm.
I just understood that.
Yeah.
Every time you watch it, you can still get the humor.
Yep.
Or you can still get more humor than you understood before.
Yeah.
It's very amusing.
No, Jack's mother died.
See, he just pushed her down. There's no way that killed her.
Didn't he pound her to death in the play?
Mm-hmm.
This is where they really start toning things down.
Yeah, which... If you're gonna make a movie of Into the Woods, you can't tone things down. You have to leave everything as is. Otherwise, you're ruining
They needed to choose a company other than Disney to produce this.
Mm-hmm. Tim Burton would have been a good director for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like Disney doesn't do PG-13 style movies, because, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. Also, you can't really say the witch is just trying to protect herself, because she literally kills herself halfway through the second act.
I know.
Or more than halfway, I guess, because it's right after Your Fault.
But the characters in this are pretty much all wrong.
Okay,
except for Rapunzel. Rapunzel's like the only innocent person in this.
Yeah. And yet you end up feeling bad for the witch.
Well, she kind of brought it on herself. If she treated Rapunzel better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she tried to take care of Rapunzel. She just didn't exactly know how. And then the witch tries to use her magic and finds out she doesn't have magic.
This was actually in Act 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the end of Act 1. Right before Ever After, which is another song that they cut from the movie.
Well, because it would have signaled the end of Act 1. But yeah, if they'd had that song, and then cut to the end screen, and then showed us suddenly a thing that said, just kidding. You know what I'm saying? And then starting
just
Act 2
kidding
there.
Seems kind of silly, and seems out of touch for a movie.
But I mean, something along the lines of that.
Mm-hmm. And here's where the lament comes in.
I mean, if this had been made back when intermissions were still a thing...
It would have been a lot better of a movie, probably.
Yeah.
But then again, the cast that they had ready when they were planning the movie back then was not good. Because they'd been planning making this movie for, 50 times before it actually was made into a movie, you know?
Yeah. So when do you think you'll get this channel set up for us to upload on?
I don't know.
Meryl Streep is good as the witch.
Meryl Streep is great as the witch.
You can kind of tell she's wearing a wig here, but it's fine.
Not as good as Bernadette Peters.
Oh no, Bernadette Peters is the best.
It's the superior witch.
Yeah.
For Into the Woods, anyway.
I mean, it depends on what kind of portrayal you like. If you prefer a silly portrayal, you're probably going to prefer Bernadette Peters. And if you prefer a serious portrayal, you're going to prefer Meryl Streep. What's
really interesting, and that's kind of the way the Last Midnight is a shocker, is the realization that, she's been silly this whole time, but suddenly she's very, very serious.
Yeah.
And very, very deep, dark, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas in this movie, the, Last Midnight doesn't really come as quite as much of a, shocker.
No.
Because she's already been being serious through most of the show.
I just can't sit through this part very often. I just get bored during the second part here. I've just never been a fan of Act 2.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of bored already, honestly. Even though I'm really not when I watch the show. The show is constructed very well. The movie really doesn't do very well with this second part of the movie.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, even watching the play, I get bored during Act 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just Into the Woods for you. And I know for the play, I can watch it really
easily.
I love
Act 1. I love Act 1. If the play had just been Act 1, I could have watched it over and over and over. But that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be a satire, kind of. You know? But I mean, it doesn't come across as satire in this movie. It comes across as they're actually trying to tell a legit story.
Or too many stories.
Yeah.
Okay, this part.
Oh, man.
This is where you start realizing how messed up this movie really is.
The prince was just a creep.
If you didn't realize that before when Johnny Depp was playing the wolf, you're gonna realize it now, because this scene, I remember I was sitting in the movie theater, and when the prince says, "May I kiss you?" there's halfway between a chuckle and a what? You know what I mean? You heard that when you were in the theater.
It's disturbing. Look at the rating. PG. And you don't see this in PG very often.
Right, which is what's so impressive about Into the Woods. They should have made it a PG-13 movie, honestly.
Yeah.
It would have worked better. Then again, the rating system is kind of flawed anyway.
Yep. Now, are you going to put in the description of the video that it accidentally skips about a minute, and that's why we show a few scenes in it?
Yeah, it wasn't even a full minute that it skipped, but yeah.
You will put that in the description, though?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this was just disturbing. I mean, that was the intention.
Right, it's disturbing.
This is not portrayed as right. It is portrayed as wrong.
Well, at this point, it's not being portrayed as either right or wrong. It's just being portrayed.
But I mean, it does cause Cinderella to break up with the prince because she realizes that he's just promiscuous.
And the baker's wife, the lesson she learns from this is kind of interesting. Because it's not so much a this was wrong thing as much as a this was wrong, but I'm glad that I did it to know that it's wrong so that I don't do it anymore.
The prince is literally a tramp, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
But they don't so much say, I'm not glad that I did it and I wish I hadn't done it. Her lesson is more like, I'm glad that I did it so that I know how wrong it is so that I don't make the same mistake again. Which is honestly the lesson that we should be learning from life. Not that we shouldn't have done that, but that we should have done that so that we know not to do it. You know what I mean?
You learn from your mistakes.
Right, you don't learn from not making
You shouldn't have done it, but you learn from your mistakes.
So, in a way, you should have done it.
But, well, you never should have done it, is what I'm saying.
You needed to have done it.
You needed to have done it to learn it, but you shouldn't have done it.
You shouldn't have done it, but you needed to have done it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is kind of the lesson she learns in this.
It's kind of like this whole Spider-Man thing. He shouldn't have let the burglar go, but it needed to happen for him to learn his lesson.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he would have been continuing to be either a show-off or a jerk, depending on what you're reading or watching.
Yeah.
And Cinderella joins the group, and now she's back in the story.
I can't wait to review 13 Reasons Why once we're done watching that show.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen the whole thing already, but...
Focus.
Yeah.
It kind of went back kind of quickly with this, didn't it? Like, it switched the baker and Cinderella
I mean,
for
it's a bit more ambiguous whether
seconds.
they actually did it in this, or if they were just kissing.
I don't think they did, because it was overnight in the musical.
But in the musical, it's like a whole night, and he actually carries her off, so that implies that they actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, it was just a few minutes of them kissing.
Really kiss me, and kiss me, and kiss me. Oh my goodness, this is just so messed up. And but at least she kind of learns from it.
No, she dies for it.
Well, she also learns from it. Like, if you listen to her lyrics.
Mm-hmm. I don't know Act 1 as well, because I haven't seen... I don't know Act 2 as well, I should say, because I haven't seen it as many times as Act 1.
I love how the first act she was saying we need to stay in the woods and get done what we want to get done. And now in the second act, she's suddenly realizing... This is a bad idea. We should get out of the woods. Thinking of which, the woods is kind of like a... What's the word I'm looking for? For the woods. Because at this point, they're not even using the woods as, like, a literal woods. Like, it's a literal woods, but it's also, like, a figurative idea of something.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what's really interesting about this whole musical, is the idea of Into the Woods.
Yeah. This is not for people that don't like musicals, is it? I don't even think it's for everybody that likes musicals.
It's also not necessarily a musical for children.
No, it's not. Act 1 is pretty okay as far as I'm concerned, which is why I'm okay with Into the Woods Jr., and this DVD is glitching again. Sorry, guys.
This is about what our DVD looks like right now.
Yeah. We'll just skip this chapter.
No.
It's not good for it, dude.
Is it not?
It's not.
Well, it's clearing up a bit. We should probably leave it capturing.
No.
So that whatever we
Copyright
skip to,
infringement.
it'll show right there.
Hold on.
But yeah, let's skip a chapter. Sorry about that, guys.
Go ahead and skip. Okay, now show them where we are.
Here's where we are now. Basically, it was just, the baker's wife singing a song, learning her lesson, and then immediately getting killed by the giant's wife.
Yeah. Does this DVD actually have scratches on it? You're gonna have to check it once we get it out.
I'll have to check, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, that's where we are. We're about to enter the part I was talking about earlier with Your Fault.
Yeah. I mean, our doing this will also help people who have DVDs with scratches, because if they get stuck, they'll be able to find a point, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This will also help if we watch a Disney animated movie, because I know they've changed the logos on later releases of the Disney animated movies. So if they're watching one that has like the older logo or the newer logo, and we're watching one with a different logo, which lasts for longer or shorter, they'll be able to get it to sync right.
Baker or mourning the loss of his wife here, directly after finding out.
Yeah.
And this is where he kind of goes crazy and decides that Jack should go to the giant. He's the one to blame, and that's where it gets started.
Now this is after his wife got killed by the giant already, right?
Yeah. And this is where they start fighting over, like, whose fault it really is. And if you think about it,
because it's easy for them to blame each other, even though they all did things wrong.
And it's not easy for any of them to blame themselves, which is what they end up doing after the witch kills herself. In fact, she's literally the one who says, fine, it's my fault. You know?
I mean, it's like if somebody else is committing a crime, so that excuses my crime. No, that's not true, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically what they're saying in this scene, because they haven't learned their lessons yet.
See, and they even got it down to the baker's fault. I mean, to the baker's father's fault. Someone who's not even there. But then they suddenly say, well, he's dead now, so it must be your fault.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're dead, then it can't be your fault. Except the wife? I don't know.
Yeah.
The song is kind of fast-paced, despite it being slower-paced than it is on Broadway.
Yeah. And you see, they're blaming Cinderella, but she had no idea that the bean would do that, so...
Right. Well, it's still indirectly her fault.
I know.
We've blamed everyone except for Red. Let's blame Red now.
But that's like blaming the police for not being to a crime scene in time.
Right.
But Cinderella was still wrong because she made, like, rash decisions with the prince and stuff.
What'd you say?
She made rash decisions with the prince.
Yeah. I love how now the witch is the one holding the child.
Yeah. The Last Midnight. Oh my goodness, I forgot about this. They were originally going to add a whole nother song to this.
Rainbows. Oh, not in this scene. I know the song you're talking about.
They actually wrote a song for the movie that wasn't in the play, but they cut it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can find it on YouTube.
You can still find it on YouTube. She'll be back.
Yeah, and I think it's on the Blu-ray version also, but we don't have the Blu-ray version.
Is it on the Blu-ray version?
I heard it was.
Okay. You mean like as an extended feature, like a bonus feature or something?
Yeah.
Or do you mean like it's actually
like a bonus
in the movie?
feature, as a bonus feature. What if they did make an extended version of this? That would be cool. But I mean, just for that one scene would be kind of pointless.
Yeah.
Unless they added more scenes to it that got cut out.
I feel like there wasn't much that got cut out for this. Like, how much is there really that could get cut out?
I still think that there are some movies where some of the deleted scenes should have been in the movie, you know?
So wait, they were all literally just saying that Jack should be dead and blaming Jack, and now when she wants the boy, they protect him?
Yeah.
This part is just confusing, honestly. It's just the way this movie's, this part of the movie is structured. It's not structured very well.
Because they didn't spend enough time on this act. So there wasn't enough time for character development.
Right.
I mean, the witch is probably the least sympathetic character in this, other than the prince, because the prince doesn't learn his lesson at all.
The prince, basically, there's nothing you can be sympathetic for him for.
But I mean, other than the prince, the witch is probably the least sympathetic.
Well, arguably. In the movie, definitely.
She's a good singer.
Mm-hmm. Meryl Streep is very good singing. And, the feeling she's adding to this. Also, the reason she dies here is because she throws out all the beans and the mother's curse comes back.
And completely destroys her.
Mm-hmm. Also, I just realized the musical kind of ends, just like ends. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they kill the giant's wife, and then just kind of it ends there.
Well, that's the way the movie is kind of, too.
Yeah, I know.
Mom actually thought there was going to be a sequel, and we're like, no, it's supposed to end there.
What's the point of making a sequel to this? Into the Woods 2?
It's like a horror movie without being a horror movie, because it ends on a really low note, but, you know.
Okay, that's creepy.
I know. You notice the imagery is even darker in the second act here.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like Tim Burton filmed
She even turned into, like, marsh and stuff. Like, swamp water. There's your next point, guys. I really hope we don't get copyright infringement for this. But, okay, put on still image. We don't want to show too much.
And this is where, like, all of them are learning their lessons, except for the baker.
Yeah.
Although, what he's saying here is kind of backwards from what he was saying earlier, because earlier he was saying he needed to save his own house, the spell was on his house, only he can break the spell. And now he's talking about how he relied on his wife for everything, and she did everything for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like this whole second act, well, not a fault of the second act, like, it's supposed to be this way, but, like, being in the woods at this time is really messing them up.
Yeah.
Again, the figurative woods.
I'm sorry, guys, that this is not a professional commentary this time, because I know we're having problems with the DVD, but just know that this is our first time doing one. So, I can't promise this isn't going to happen again with other movies, but...
Yeah.
But from now on, we are checking for fingerprints, right?
Also, I think they removed the song No More right here. Or do they keep No More? Pretty sure they
See, here's his
it.
father. Actually, for a while, before we actually got the movie on DVD, because I'd only seen it in theaters once before, and then I'd seen recordings of the play, I actually thought that they'd cut his father out completely, because I completely forgot about this scene. But was the scene in the play?
This scene was in the play, when he saw his father here.
Yeah. It would have been cool seeing his father as an actual character throughout Act 1, but I don't know how well that would have worked with the audience.
Mysterious man just randomly showing up.
Yeah.
They have the music from No More playing here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
No More is actually the least memorable song for me, anyway, from the musical, so I don't really mind them removing it. Anyway, now they're making plans, and here comes the baker's back. Red's attitude in this. And then in a minute here, when Cinderella starts talking to birds, and Red is the only one who's like, you can talk to birds. Because, like, at this point, everyone is going to be thinking that. Because, like, she sang to the birds earlier. She asked them for help. And everyone was thinking that earlier. Everyone's going to be thinking that again. And once again, the musical writers just flat out tell you that they know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And Sondheim really likes doing that, too. He does that in a lot of his well, I've only seen 2 of his musicals, but he does that in Sweeney Todd as well.
Yeah.
And this is where Cinderella finds out about the prince, because the birds tell her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were the birds telling her about the baker's wife, or did the prince do it with other people as well?
Well, we know he did it with Snow White in the play.
Mm-hmm. But we don't know that in the movie.
No, we don't. They cut that out. I guess it was too suggestive for a Disney film.
Yeah.
Because they already have the one scene, and that's suggestive enough.
See, she doesn't specifically mention the baker's wife here. She mentions other women, which implies that the birds have told her about other women.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily the baker's wife.
Yeah.
The prince is just a creep. Oh, don't touch her.
He's a tramp.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if that's a politically correct term, but that's what he is, you know?
If you love me, why did you stray?
Yeah.
He's got an excuse, and it's not even a good excuse. He's just, like, so prideful.
Yeah.
I was raised to be charming, not sincere. I mean, his name is Prince Charming, not Prince Sincere.
Yeah, I know.
I will always love the maiden who ran away, and I the faraway prince. That line that comes in a second.
He's just sex-crazed.
Mm-hmm. But I think he really does love her. Just because of this last little bit. So it makes me kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time not. See?
So he kind of lets her go away from him because of that, because he realizes he's hurting her, so...
Mm-hmm.
He lets her go because he doesn't want her to hurt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of learns his lesson, but he also kind of doesn't.
It's more like, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I can't stop, so I'm not gonna force you to put up with it.
Yeah.
The lessons that Into the Woods teaches are, like, real-life lessons that, like... They're not the kind of lessons you want to learn, but they're lessons that you actually need to learn.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it really a different type of musical.
And I mean, the fairy tales did have some pretty raunchy stuff in them.
Okay, this...
I mean, they didn't have any of this story stuff in them. This stuff is completely made up, but...
Right. This whole second
But there were other fairy tales that had things kind of like this. Completely unrelated to the other fairy tales. Okay, go back to the image.
This part of the musical. This song is what really got me. This song is what got, my friend who I showed it to as well.
Yeah, the fact that they don't actually have the people who have always helped them figure out what to do. They aren't around anymore, so they have to figure out what to do themselves.
But you're still not alone in the world.
Yeah.
Because there are people there to help you.
Yeah, you have friends.
A lesson that, like... You hear it all the time, but you don't really hear it.
Yeah.
In this way. Like, you don't hear it in a way that will help you understand it, really. Which... Again, like I said, this is really a breakthrough musical. And this part is done well in the movie. I really do like this part of the movie. This is probably the best part of it.
Act 2 actually is longer in the movie than I remember it being, but it's still quite short compared to Act 1.
This is the best part of Act 2 right here, is this scene. And possibly the most well-done part of the movie.
Yeah.
Is this No One Is Alone. Which is really sad because, they messed up the whole rest of Act 2.
Yeah.
Or they did a lot of stuff wrong in Act 2.
What happened to Rapunzel's prince in the play after he went with Sleeping Beauty and stuff?
I don't know. Did he chase Rapunzel and get killed along with her?
I don't remember. So he was the one who didn't learn his lesson. So if they'd had this, it kind of would have shown the difference between Rapunzel's prince and Cinderella's prince, because Rapunzel's prince doesn't learn his lesson, and Cinderella's prince partially does, but also doesn't.
Yeah. Also, that when they sing on the People Make Mistakes there, for any music nerds out there, not specific musical nerds, but music nerds, the People Make Mistakes is actually an inversion of the Bean theme, the da-da-da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty interesting. It's interesting that Sondheim does that kind of stuff, that he knows music, and the way I learned that actually was I was watching a video where Sondheim was talking about Into the Woods, how to perform it, how to put it on correctly.
Is he still alive?
And stuff. I believe he is.
What did he think of this movie?
He helped with the movie, but I don't think they took his consideration on fully for Act 2. Either that or they just really Disney-fied Act 2, which Disney wasn't the right company to get a hold of this movie, honestly.
You know, it's really surprising because Disney did the most faithful movie adaptation of Annie, surprisingly, because you know how Disney usually is. And then this was the same director who did Disney's Annie.
They just cut off the song.
Yeah.
I forget that they do that every time.
But yeah, this is the same director who did Disney's Annie, so you'd kind of expect the same level of faithfulness, but it's just not quite on the same level, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, Annie isn't as raunchy as Into the Woods is.
Right, right. Not quite as raunchy. Into the Woods is very... And like I've said already a few times, Into the Woods is really a breakthrough because of all the things it does that other musicals wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And each year we've been getting more musicals like that. Like, when Rent came out, it did a lot of stuff that other musicals refused to do at the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of musicals that have done that.
Yeah. Oh, you could see her face, except for, like, the top of her head there.
Yeah, I know. It's not... It doesn't look... I don't know.
I liked it when it was a lot more mysterious, where you never saw her.
They should have left her invisible.
Well, not invisible, but off camera, out of frame.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's what I meant. Why did I say invisible? This is just the silliest thing.
You see her whole face there, literally.
And that's one thing that, like, I mentioned a few times now, that there are things you can do with a play that you can't do with a movie, and this is one of them.
Yeah, the Giant's Wife is who we're talking about right now.
Because if you couldn't see the Giant's Wife in the movie, that would be a slight problem, honestly.
That was one of my problems with the Lorax movie also, was showing the Onceler.
Mm-hmm. But honestly, you can't really not show him in a movie. It would be really difficult to do that with a full-length movie.
And I mean, not only showing him, but making him not generic. Because the point is it could happen to anybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But then they made him really dated really fast.
Giant's Wife is dead, and pretty much now when that happens, you know that the movie is going to end soon.
Yeah. They don't even get out of the woods, if I remember correctly.
I don't think they do, but I think they do eventually. I think the show implies that they're going to get out of the woods.
But right now, they're just glad they have each other.
Well, I think it kind of goes literally and figuratively that they're going to get out of the woods both ways. Because, once again, the whole Into the Woods is kind of a figurative thing as well as a literal thing.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. Is that the baker?
Another one of my problems with this, and I know this isn't necessarily the people who made the play's fault, it's the fandom's fault, is that the fandom is going to read the fairy tales and then say, and then this happened afterwards, as if Into the Woods is canon to every version of the fairy tale.
Well,
that's my problem with Wicked also.
No, because there's a good chunk, well, actually the majority of the Wicked fan base refuses to acknowledge Wicked as canon to the original Oz.
Okay, but I know a lot of other people do consider it canon. I've even seen whole comments on YouTube that in all seriousness say that it's out of character for the witch to burn the scarecrow.
Well, here's the thing, what's really weird about musical fan bases is there's like a group, well, the musical fan base that I'm into, I talk about the side of the fan base that's into more musicals than just that musical, but really into that musical as well.
You see, they kind of delved into this, that Cinderella actually liked cleaning, even though she was forced to do more than she could do.
Sometimes I actually enjoy cleaning.
When she got to the palace, she was literally made a queen and wasn't able to do anything that she liked. She just had to sit around and...
And she was unhappy with it. She says that at the beginning of Act 2 in the show.
Yeah, but they don't delve into that as much in this. It's just one line.
I love how here, like, this is where you really get to see the baker thoroughly learn his lesson. Because, like, it's still hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see what he's imagining.
Yeah, so it's the baker telling the story in this one instead of a random narrator, right?
Mm-hmm. Which kind of works.
Yeah, and here's another ambiguous thing, whether his wife's actually with him or whether he's imagining what his wife would be saying if she was with him. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the musical pulls it off really the show pulls it off really interestingly. With her, like, standing in a way that makes it seem like she's floating there. As in, like... And also, she is singing the whole no one is alone thing. Like, she's always going to be in his heart. So it's kind of obvious that she's still dead. That she's not really there.
But I mean, whether her ghost is there, whether he's imagining her there.
No, it's... She's in his heart. He's remembering her. In my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think it is supposed to be up to interpretation. Because some of the best musicals are up to interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
Man, the way these songs cross over each other.
It's starting to glitch out a little bit again, but since we're almost done anyway...
It just did a quick flash.
Yeah.
And I love how Jack and Red are sitting down listening to the story now, and Cinderella. I love how, like, are they a new little family? And see, even the light is coming back in. They're getting out of the woods.
Yeah, they're gonna find the way. They just had to wait for morning to come.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have the giant's wife after them anymore. Is it still Emily Blunt singing here?
This is Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep sings Children Will Listen.
Okay.
Emily Blunt was singing the No One Is Alone reprise.
Mm-hmm.
Although right now it's more of the cast listening. Are we gonna watch all the way through the credits, or...?
Maybe part way through at least. I mean, if we have more to talk about and stuff. We'll at least watch through part of the credits.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're not done with this commentary yet.
No, of course not. We're almost 2 hours in, though. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah.
This lasted for a long time. I do like this song,
Yeah. I mean, that's where the title appears right there, because this is one of those with the titles only at the end of the movie. I mean, they just barely missed it, but...
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. But anyway, you guys could probably turn your DVDs off now, because it's just the credits, unless you really want to watch the credits. I'm going to keep them on, because we can, but... Yeah, Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine
worked on the, not the movie, the original musical. James Lapine was the one who wrote the book, and Stephen Sondheim wrote the music and lyrics.
Yeah.
Which, like I said before, Sondheim music is generally very difficult to pull off. Into the Woods being one of the more difficult musicals in a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah.
So, it's very impressive the way they were able to do the music for this show. Or this movie. I keep calling this a show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Yeah, I
Johnny
know. Johnny
Depp is the wolf.
They don't even get full credit there. Okay. Yeah. So in case there are any other actors or actresses you were wondering about, the list of them.
I mean, most of the characters in this are major characters.
Mm-hmm. There are very few minor characters in Into the Woods.
Yeah.
And I think the original show even had Snow White and Sleeping Beauty appear for like half a second.
Imagine writing one of those book report things in school, if it was one of those papers that write down the main characters of the story. Writing all those down for this.
Have you seen this? The exact way the musical ends.
Wait, does she literally come out of the curtain and do that?
No, that's during the curtain call. They're all coming out and bowing during that. And then they sing. And then Cinderella steps out and says, I wish, and that's how it ends.
Okay, well, if you don't know what we're talking about, guys, I never saw that, at least I don't think I did, but it briefly cuts back to a shot of Cinderella singing I Wish, and then cuts to black. I don't know if I saw that before. I might have just forgot, but I definitely didn't remember that.
Yeah, it's in the original play. That's how the original play ends.
We might have left the theater before that came on, because, I mean, we weren't expecting post-credit scenes or anything.
It begins with a wish and it ends with a wish.
This TV has a really bad screen on it. I can barely read these credits, but...
Well, it's just because the screen is so small.
Yeah.
Is the issue.
It's not a flat screen. It's an old-school, small TV.
Tiny TV, like half the size... Well, I want to say half the size of my laptop screen, but I don't really know.
So our first commentary, and I think it went pretty well. Do you think it went pretty well?
Other than the weird DVD errors.
We still have to listen to the commentary to make sure it came in good, but I think it's probably going to turn out pretty good.
Yeah. Alright, so what did you guys think of that? Tell us in the comments if you enjoyed it, like the video if you enjoyed it. Tell us what we can work on, or tell us what movies you would recommend we do, if there are some that you'd like to listen to our thoughts on.
We have levels of comfort for movies. I mean, we're both adults, so we can watch. We're legally allowed to watch pretty much any movie ever made, but our levels of comfort, we just won't watch certain movies and we won't touch them.
Yeah, like
don't ask us to do 50 Shades of Grey. We're not doing it. No.
Things like that, yeah.
We're not doing it.
I mean, I'll do certain R-rated movies, like, Hacksaw Ridge is currently my favorite movie, so we'll probably do one on that sometime.
Yeah.
Which, that's rated R, but that's rated R for violence and grisly images alone.
Yeah.
So, alright, yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yep.
Bye.
This is Chrix and Curt signing out.
Bye.
Bye.